encouraged and led by our face to do this. Because, it can be, I'm going to talk in humble terms, but it can be overwhelming to think about like starting a company, without too much like business background. We don't have an MBA or, Codi is a researcher by background. I'm a lawyer. And so we had to, go through a lot of like up and downs, and it's kind of a bumpy road. But we always have to persevere, and have faith that, God wants, this to be on the market to help people. So yeah, we really led by our faith for sure.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of our amazing podcast, Break Free and Leaders in Tech. As I was speaking to our amazing guest today, this is the first time that I'm going to do this. I'm going to record a podcast that has to do a lot with technology, but also with business. The people that are with us, in front of us, they are co-founders and entrepreneurs and very highly technical people. So I let them introduce themselves, as I don't do such a good job as introducing people as they can do themselves. So Codi and Valerie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, David.
Thanks.
Awesome. So let's start with Valerie. Your full name, where do you live, and what do you do for a living?
Sure. So I'm Valerie Gharagouzloo. We live in Orlando, Florida, Lake Nona Medical City. I'm a lawyer by background, so for me it was a transition of my career to join Imaginostics, which is a health tech startup. Yeah.
Transition of her career to found it, and then I'm her husband, and the technology in the startup is my invention. So it's been a lot of fun. So hi, I'm Codi Gharagouzloo, and I'm the scientific founder. So I look forward to speaking with you today.
Beautiful. So guys, you are your husband and wife too, right?
That's correct.
Now, how do you convince your wife to leave a law career and jump into such a high risk endeavor as a startup in technology?
Yeah, so she actually helped found it, but she wasn't a part of the company as a officer until September. And so actually she was interested in tech startups, was thinking about maybe doing something a little bit different, but then thought, well, this is our company and it's the coolest thing around. So
and so I was already an entrepreneur. Like I was a lawyer entrepreneur with my own firm in immigration law. I helped a lot of like researchers in my career, like researchers, entrepreneurs, to get their visa and green cards. So I was, always kind of in connection with science somehow. So my clients that I represented, so helping them, describe their field of expertise to an immigration officer, to justify the green card. With my husband, so I helped him co-found the company. But at the beginning, it was not straightforward for me because I have a law background and it's a very high-tech, health tech company. But when I talk to people and I realized, what I could bring to the table, that's when I decided to switch, right? And it's been really great and wonderful. And I'm really happy to be at Imaginostics helping to promote the company.
That's beautiful. When did you guys started the company?
Yeah, so we started it in July 2018. So I think, Valerie deciding that she wanted to join, also it's a timing thing, right? So she joined at a time when probably we're, big enough and advanced enough beyond, those, for example, when we started early on, we were clinical prototyping, right? So that probably wouldn't have been the best time for her to join the team. So that probably also happened naturally, I think, with our growth and advancement.
Yeah, now we're more focusing, for my part, I'm focusing on, explaining the technology to people. We definitely want to, explain what it is to people because it's a novel technology that doesn't exist otherwise. We co-founded after Codi finished his postdoc. So we invented the technology during his PhD. Did a 2 years postdoc, and at the end, that's when I understood what he was doing. Took me 5 years or maybe 6 years or so. But that's when I realized this is really important. We need to bring it to people, and funding a startup company seemed really good to bring it to people at hospital.
That's beautiful. Two things. Number one, Codi, the first thing that I need to do is apologize. I thought you were the tech guy setting up everything for Valerie. Number two, you are the coolest doctor, PhD that I know. Everybody that gets a doctorate, they become something else, and they have to wear a tie and a suit, or at least, they are sleek, and you know what I mean? They have some kind of ego. Brother, you look fantastic, and that's the way people should behave, with no ego. So congratulations about that.
Appreciate it.
Also, I had a very similar experience. When I decided to start my first company, it was in 2005. But we already had a failed startup in the 90s. I decided to run a software consulting firm right after college, and it went really bad. I ended up having to sell clones that I was building myself to pay the rent, and my wife was supporting the family. So thank God I didn't went bankrupt. I was able to sell the business because I had already 1,000 clients, but I was losing money every month. So I sold the business for the brand value. So 10 years later, I decided to try again, but this time my wife told me, okay, I'm gonna give you 5 years. If you don't hire me in 5 years, so your company has to be big enough to hire me in 5 years, otherwise you go back and get a job. So that was the deal. And to the dot, the 5th year that I was in business, I was able to hire.
Wow.
It's awesome. It was meant to be. That sounds great.
So just very similar to you guys. The technology, what's the technology about?
Yeah, maybe I can talk on that one just because I'm here. But so yeah, it's a different way to do MRI. So we're going to be using any MRI scanner in any hospital, and we're going to change the way that scanner acquires data. So it's going to create a new type of image. So we're going to make 10x better vascular images. And for the first time, we can make measurements of internal physiology. So that means that in those vascular images, which look so much better, so a radiologist will look at it with their eye and say, hey, this is 10x better. But then within that image, we can quantify things about the small vessels in the brain and their structure, function, and leakage. And so that helps us to look at the different diseases through the perspective of what's happening in the vascular physiology. So it's a platform technology. Every year there are 40 million MRI scans, 20 million with gadolinium. 37 million people are contraindicated to gadolinium or shouldn't be getting it because they have chronic kidney disease. So our go-to-market really is just that 10x better vascular image proposition, and the fact that it's kidney safe, not going to damage your kidneys. Actually, instead of the gadolinium contrast, the method works with an iron oxide supplement. So moving away from heavy metal to an iron supplement. And we're bringing those 10x better vascular images to the market, and then in parallel also working on that biomarker technology, which will be, in the future plan of the company here for commercialization. Yeah.
That's incredible. And you're telling me that you don't need to upgrade the hardware. You can use the existing hardware.
That's right. Yeah, the innovation is really in quantum physics. And so we eliminate susceptibility from the signal, which has, so there's this thing called the spoiled gradient echo equation, which explains what the signal should look like in MRI if you're measuring. And so we showed that by making measurements 1,000 times earlier than typical measurements. So moving from the millisecond to microsecond regime after a radio frequency excitation in MRI. Now, MRI is very complicated technology, probably the most complicated imaging technology, period. So if what I'm saying sounds like Chinese, speak Chinese, then that makes sense. But so we basically changed the physics of acquisition, acquiring 1,000 times earlier when the signal's predictable. And there's a couple other tricks to the method, but it's a new way to do 3D imaging with MRI. And we do require changing the operation of the scanner, but we do not require changing the hardware.
That is incredible. And so, what was your PhD on quantum physics or?
MRI physics. I mean, I had a background in physics and engineering and photonics. 2 bachelors and a master's. And so when I started my PhD, I focused on creating this new method. And so I invented it, took 6 months to invent it. And I sat down at the scanner and experimented, mice and rats, about 6 years for a PhD, and then 2 years at Mass General Hospital, moving from mice and rats to monkeys and humans, and then starting the company in 2018.
That's amazing. So how far have you gone on your commercialization or even the proof of concept? Have you gone past all those stages?
Yep, we've published it's better, than gadolinium imaging. So 20-person head-to-head study in pulmonary thoracic imaging. And now we have a go-to-market strategy with the FDA clearance and approvals. So we're, 2 years out now, and we're raising $5 million to do that. And so actually, we've had about $1 million come in so far. We started welcoming checks this month. So I think we're going to hit our target, and in a couple of years, hopefully this thing will be in every hospital.
If I were an investor in health tech, I would be a stupid person not to invest in such a thing like you, because your access to market is low. I mean, like, if you go with a revolutionary idea like this, to have scans 10 times better, 10x better, like you said, and I don't have to pay a penny to upgrade the hardware. I mean, like, those MRI machines are super expensive. I mean, even if you just have to modify the operations of it, it's just a very low percentage compared to having to replace the entire machine, right? So for me, from the business side, I'm like, this is a no-brainer. If you're going to make my machinery 10 times better, you're going to help so much more people get better diagnostics. I mean, like, why not, right? All you need is some money to start marketing this thing and start changing the world for a better place.
That's completely true. And the beauty of it is a platform technology. So again, we identified a go-to market that's going to take 2 years, maybe 2 to 3 years maximum, right? But let's say in 2 years, we are on the market at hospital with our FDA clearance and approvals. Then we can continue our research, with non-dilutive funding, so grants, for example, or by project. And there are a lot of applications for the medical field. So especially in neurology, cardiology, in cancer. So all those applications, we will need like specific strategy, obviously, like to develop it. But when people invest, they invest, in whatever we can do with the technology. So there are a lot of different applications that we can pursue with it. And the second thing is that because it's based on quantum physics, what works for rats should work for human as well. So yes, there is a risk with I'll say with the FDA approval itself, right? Because we still have to have authorization from the government to be on the market. But in terms of physics, it should work the same for human, and then it works for animals.
That is amazing. And so, what's the business model, guys? How are you going to make money out of this?
Yeah, so it's a two-part business model. So we've got the software that goes on the scanner, enables it to make the images, and then the iron contrast agent. And so we're actually manufacturing and then selling that one, changing the label from what it is to a contrast agent, and then we have an exclusivity period on that.
Yeah. Again, that's for the go-to market. In the future, we'll do image processing with our biomarkers. So that's a little bit of a different business model for future markets. But it's a good summary.
So we're looking to fit into the existing workflow. So that instead of making just a gadolinium image, they're just going to use a different contrast agent. They're going to get an image that looks a little bit different. The radiologist is going to be trained to look at these images. They're better, anyway. But yeah, it's this black and white imaging solution that we're just putting out there then is going to fit into the existing workflow, and then biomarker-based applications such as for the early detection of dementia, which is what I'm really passionate about. But so many other applications. Those ones we're actively pursuing through clinical studies now, that's funded by the government. So that's a pretty cool way to run that in parallel.
That's beautiful. Tell me, why are you so patient? Sure, your passion is with dementia.
For me, I'm more passionate about understanding how the brain works and thinking about when our brain is activated, like what's going on. And, I think about those blood vessels dilating and the blood flowing, when we need more nutrients. And so this is a new technology for functional imaging. It's a new way to look at the brain. And so in dementia, if you want to understand, how the brain works, a good way to do it is to find a problem to solve. And it's such for me, a neuroscientifically fascinating problem. I've studied the molecular mechanisms of it, and then of course I want to make an impact, right? I want to see people healed. I mean, from my own sort of person perspective, my whole goal has been to use this love for physics to, bring value to people in, healthcare. And so it's sort of a following your nose kind of thing. And then, I've been the co-chair of the Alzheimer's Association Business Consortium. I've published in the field. I work on that. So
that's beautiful. And mental health is one of the most important things right now, because we just have come to realize that there is a pandemic of mental health issues, and a lot of people are suffering from that, right? So this should help a lot. Yeah. So guys, what is your addressable market, and how much of a share you think you can get out of it?
Yeah, so if we had our software on every MRI scanner in the U.S., that part of the software solution might be like 600 million or something. That's not necessarily the biggest part of the market. The market for the contrast agent is pretty substantial. Gadolinium is like 5 billion. Your camera has frozen. Do you see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still see you. Yeah.
Okay. You're frozen, but that's fine. And then your voice is there. So the contrast agent is actually a huge part of the market, and so that's billions. I mean, that's easily in the billions. And then we're looking at U.S. and Europe, and but that go-to-market is billions. I mean, early detection of dementia is $1 billion market too. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It just hasn't really been done yet. And the list goes on. I mean, there's so many different diseases.
And I don't remember, but we really we fit into the longevity, longevity sector, because with our technology we can, detect. Our hope is that we can detect, many diseases in advance, to change healthcare to preventative instead of just curative. So longevity market. Do you remember the numbers? I mean, it's pretty big as well.
Preventative diagnostics. So that's one of the reasons. I mean, that's why we're here in Lake Nona, is to work with a company, preventative diagnostic company. But go ahead.
But I mean, again, we want to stay in our sector, which is, providing the software with the per sequence, the contrast agent, and then do image processing. But we're more than happy to collaborate and find partners that have clinics or, install the software at hospitals. So our idea is really in the future we'll have a center or a team dedicated to image processing and to get the biomarkers information from all the image we can obtain. So we try to partner with the right companies and leaders as well, who are working towards the same goals and have the same mission.
It's beautiful. Now, the substance that you're using, the contract substance that you use now, is actually from becoming something based out of metal and harming your body. Now it's a supplement. Can you use that substance in the current technology without using your software, or it has to go with the software?
Yeah, if you didn't use our software, the images wouldn't be as good. There have been, what we're using is a drug that's approved for anemia. So if you got to take iron supplements, but you have a hard time, holding down pills, you'll get an intravenous formulation of this. So that's what we use for, it's an intravenous iron supplement, right? So it's not something you take home and do yourself anyway. But it's been around for so long, it's generically available. That's why we can manufacture and change the label of it. I'm not sure I answered your question. Yeah, but
no, it's good. No, it's the business model that I see here, guys. So what I am a technologist that became a business person, right? So
sure.
I have the blessing of have both.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm just admiring how you can actually apply quantum physics to a very serious problem and create software out of it that can use existing hardware to completely revolutionize the way MRIs are done. But from the business side, the way I see you guys is the way I see McDonald's. McDonald's has more money in real estate than the hamburgers they sell. They are the largest real estate business in the world because every McDonald's McDonald's corporations owns that real estate, and they rent it to the franchisees. So you think they are selling burgers? Of course, people don't go and buy burgers. There wouldn't be money to pay that rent. But McDonald's corporations, their biggest money is real estate. Nobody knows that.
What do you see as our real estate?
So your real estate is that substance, right? So the software, the business model is, of course, your software, the way that quantum physics is enhancing that image is 10x is beautiful, but without that substance, it's useless. So my suggestion to you is focus on commercializing that as your breakthrough. As you go there, you're adding massive value.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's, I mean, I think especially sometimes when I talk about the technology, since, I started inventing it in 2011, right? So I think it's easy for me to just confuse people, but that is what what we're focused on with our $5 million raise is selling that substance and the software needed to make that substance useful.
Yeah.
And that's a huge market. And so from the profits from that one, within 2 years when it's available in every hospital, we will use portion of those profits to continue research needed for our decision support tools in these very even larger market areas that are essentially unsolved needs in diagnostics.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's the Elon Musk model, right? He wants to go to Mars and he's a private company. What did he do? He sent thousands and thousands of little satellites around the world. Now he's selling cheap internet to fund his mission to Mars. It's brilliant. It's exactly what you're doing.
And it helps people, I mean, the gadolinium products, actually, we found out they accumulate in the brain of even healthy people. So it's the kind of thing where, with 20 million of those scans a year in the US, like, people are getting them, you might end up getting one. And, I hope this technology's available before I have to get one. I mean, chances are everything will be okay. Some people have bad reactions with the gadolinium, but the truth is we don't know the long-term consequences and toxicity of it because we know it's depositing. So that's the real issue. I mean, there have been famous cases like Chuck Norris' wife, the gadolinium almost killed her. Okay, that's bad. You don't want that heavy metal. Probably, but the point is that it needs to be. It's obvious. It's an obvious fix. Obviously, it needs to be replaced.
Yeah. And it's actually, it's helping people in a beautiful way. It's amazing.
I just want to add that the particularity is that to show that this can be used for a contrast agent for imaging is that in a way this works hand in hand with the technology that Codi invented. Because if you do normal MRI with this contrast agent, it's not gonna be great in terms of results. So that's why when he invented the technology, he really he was already taking into account the physiology of the body, which particularly we'll use. He already researched about those different type of contrast agents. I think there are a few in my knowledge. But it really works with the contrast agent hand in hand. And this is what we basically need to present as a case to the FDA to show how it works really well. And that's why, we still have 2 years, to present it to the FDA and show that this, can replace the standard of care, basically. And again, this is just a go-to market. So we are not adding any type of innovative data necessarily into those black and white images. It was judged 10 times better by radiologists. So in terms of image quality, I'll say. but the strength of the technology is more like on those like further markets, like long-term market with biomarkers that can help with early detection of many disease. It helps, and Codi can, explain more in detail, like the type of funding we have. But it works for Alzheimer's, it works for traumatic brain injury or concussion, for stroke, understanding the brain, analyzing effect of drugs, such as mental health drugs against anxiety or depression. So we actually had a grant to analyze that from the NIH. It works in cardiology, so we're hoping to find the right partners in cardiology. It works in cancer. We're actually part of the Paris-Saclay Cancer Cluster in France to promote cancer research. So as we develop this product to go to market, we always think about how can we help advance those scientific endeavors as well, and how can we help with our technology to make improvements, and maybe help as well in the development of new drugs by our endpoints. So we are offering actually our endpoints to pharma, to biotech companies that are developing new drugs. And because of our measurements, we can, help those biotech pharma, maybe find novel drugs, or prove the efficacy of them. So that's something actually we already offering. If any pharma were interested in partnering with us.
It's beautiful. I just remember in this podcast, I had a very high-end vice president of a big pharma health company. I'll do the connections for you guys to see if they might want to look at your solution, because he's based in Boston and it's a huge company and they're doing fantastic. And this guy really wants to help the world grow. By the way, people that come to this podcast are people that have enough love in their heart to share their wisdom with everybody else without asking for a penny of it. And that's why I love my job, because I am successful enough that I can dedicate my time to give my time back to the world. So when you do something that everybody wins, it's going to prosper.
That's
right?
fantastic.
I mean, you still need to put the checks and balances and learn and have mentors and everything else. But, I'm a man of faith. And, the Bible says that you reap what you sow. It's simple. And it's a spiritual law that works everywhere, whether you know God or whether you're an atheist or whatever. Whatever wherever you sow is what you're going to reap later. So in this case, when I'm prophesying to you, what I'm predicting to you is you're going to have a tremendous success. And I'm going to do whatever I can to connect you to the people that I know to help you succeed, because I want to see your technology being utilized to help people. It's incredible, but we live in this day and age where polarization is all we talk about on social media, where everybody's fighting because of their values. Well, people are dying and healthcare is getting worse, and nobody's noticing. So when I interview people like you, it's like, okay, let's try to push them as much as we can, if that makes sense.
Yeah, right. And the diagnostic part of it is, I'm a physicist, right? So obviously that's what I can contribute, from the scientific part, and then what we can commercialize together. And then, what is also what we're also very passionate about is accelerating drug development. One of my favorite drugs out there is placental stem cells. It's a living drug. There's, I think, no other ethical source of stem cells. The placenta comes with every baby. It's a placenta factory. That's what Dr. Bob Hariri, discovered. And the difficulty that Cellularity, which is the company that has all the thousands of patents for those cell therapy, is with the FDA, is to show the dose-dependent effect of those drugs. A lot of people have gotten stem cells. It's helped so many people for, the shoulder injuries. You hear about it, I think, and it also has huge possibilities for neurodegenerative disease. And quantifying the vascular physiology is sort of a general new biomarker that I believe can be used to show very quantitatively in a dose-dependent way how these cells are helping people. And so that's why we keep coming back to the biomarkers. because those are, a part of the diagnostics beyond, yes, kind of, going out and replacing what's there, making it safer and better. But this is really the vision part of it is, if you want to see those and those technologies are out there, they exist, man. How do we accelerate that? You say we live in this, era of converging technologies where AI is accelerating everything. Yes. And unfortunately, there's, competing forces. For example, we have to be able to show very clearly to the FDA how the thing is working. Otherwise, it could be ready, but it'll never be passed. And that's one example of, a drug that is a new generation of drug. And it really needs this sort of new generation of biomarker that can just sort of very clearly show how it's working. So that's also, how we hope to contribute.
Yeah, we see ourselves as, providing a service as well to those, biotech companies. So they are doing the innovation part with, developing those novel therapeutics. But with our technology, we can, measure things that are not otherwise available, like the structure, function, and leakage of small vessels, blood vessels. And there are a lot of applications. So we actually talking to pharma as well, to like big pharma companies, and trying to develop like some like research project where we can show the application of how technology. So we're really open to that, to like some collaboration and partnership. And what we see is that we will, in the future, provide those services and hopefully help, show, analyze, those drugs, how they work, and their efficacy. But you did mention that you were a man of faith, and I, absolutely love that. We actually both Christian as well by faith, and I think we will not have done what we have done today, with our faith and with without God's help. Since the beginning, we've been, encouraged and led by our faith to do this, because it can be. I'm gonna talk in humble terms, but it can be overwhelming to think about like starting a company, without too much like business background. We don't have an MBA, or Codi is a researcher by background. I'm a lawyer, and so we had to go through a lot of like up and downs, and it's kind of a bumpy road. But we always have to persevere, and have faith that God wants, this to be on the market to help people. So yeah, we're really led by our faith for sure. Yeah.
Beautiful, guys. The only way. Listen, what I'm gonna say. The only way brilliant people like you guys spend 7 years in something without seeing any tangible results instead of money yet is because you have so much faith in what you're doing and what the impact is going to be to the world. So I really, really, really want to encourage you to keep going. The first $1 million came for a reason. For an entrepreneur to invest, for an investor, they need to have that confidence that somebody else is already risking their money. For me, the FDA approval, I don't think it's a big deal. If you're using an iron supplement for your biomarkers, I mean, come on, like, it's being done already. You just modifying it a little bit to use it for your own purposes. And the MRIs, the scanners are already approved. They've been used for many years already. So I don't see any big obstacle here. What I see is a beautiful company that is about to grow fast, and it has $1 billion evaluation very soon.
Thank you so much. And we when we look for investment, we look as well as partnering with visionary investors as well, right? At least shares the same vision or same mission. That's why I think it's taking more time, because the value is more on a long term, right? On how we can advance healthcare, change healthcare again from curative to preventative. But because we have this vision and mission, we definitely want to partner with investors that share the same vision. We see it as a collaboration, not just money. Obviously, like we really want to work together in achieving the commercialization, being on the market, and see how we can help people in those different medical applications. And one of our founding investor actually joined the company recently, and is being such a tremendous blessing for us. And is gonna continue help us to go on the market with the commercialization. So we're really fortunate. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Guys, it's been almost 40 minutes already. I don't want to abuse your time. I would love to ask one more question before we end the podcast, and this is for you individually, and you're not allowed to copy each other, okay? So I'm going to start with Codi. If you had access to a billboard in front of the busiest highway on earth, what would you write in it?
If I had access to essentially a billboard that people would see when they drive by,
yeah,
what would I write on it? Jesus loves you. What would I write on it? I mean, for the company, like from the, I don't know.
In general, so that's probably one of the best answers I ever had in this podcast. Beautiful, and that's why you're doing this. So what we do as believers is, people, especially these days, people think that believers are hateful people because we are against everything that is sinful. But the truth is that if God is love, we are to show God's love through our jobs and the way we behave, right? So the best way to show people that, right?
Yeah, no, I think along those lines. I mean, I think the difference is that we're also, we're aware that we're all sinners, and then as a Christian, we know that like any other person is not any less a sinner. And then I think the message is to love, it's to love, period. Whether it's even your enemy, right? And it's like some passage about loving your enemy is like pouring coals on his head, even sometimes, that we don't even understand how, the power of love, even in all kinds of situations. So, I think that when somebody understands the message, then that person is going to be more accepting, hopefully, than anybody else, and then also more loving, and then you're going to see that in them.
Amen. Valerie, you're not allowed to copy. That's going to be hard for you.
You got a billboard. You got to write something on it. There you go. What do you write?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be original, but here we are in a collaborative workspace, which is a part of GuideWell. So we are co-working members. And I love the inscription of reimagining the future of health. So yeah, I love to reimagine the future of health and, hope for better quality of life, for sure, and if we can, detect early and cure some, disease that we think right now are incurable, that will be, give a lot of hope to people. So that's my hope with Imaginostics. I did grow up with one of my brothers, unfortunately, has an incurable disease that we never really know. We don't know why he has that, and he manifests in some peripheral neuropathy. So he has a symptom of a diabetic person. I think I grew up with, going to the hospital, seeing the doctor, doing surgery or different type of medications. But in a way, it's frustrating to see that there are some diseases like that, rare disease that only a few people have, where there is not enough means of research to really find the cause and not the means to cure them, right? So I'm hoping that we can give hope, in those type of situation where people are hoping to find, new creative treatments. And I think with the technology and with the novel type of data we bring to market, it will be possible, at least for some of them where there are some vasculature components involved.
That's beautiful. Guys, thank you so much for your time. God bless you. Tell me, people like to invest or be looking for opportunity to invest, for you to consider them. As you know, you're filtering the people that give you money because they have to be aligned to your values, which is so smart, by the way. If I would have done that when I started my business 18 years ago, I wouldn't have gone through a lot of the trouble that I went through. So tell me, how can they find you?
Valerie and Codi at Imaginostics.com is our email. IMAGINOSTICS.com.
Are you guys on LinkedIn?
We're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, on LinkedIn, just Valerie and Codi Gharagouzloo. That's how you can find us. Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Before we leave, I want you to zoom out so people can see your amazing boardroom, because I was so amazed. And also the zoom of the camera. Look at that. Go more. That is, look at that.
That's
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're at the Gharagouzloo Innovations in there in beautiful Lake Nona.
Yeah.
Florida.
And if people want to meet us, please do reach out. Like we're in Orlando, Lake Nona, Magical City. We can grab a coffee here in the town center. So yeah, please do reach out.
Sounds good, guys. God bless you. Have a beautiful rest of the week. Cheers.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leaders in Tech podcast. Check in next week to keep learning how to use technology and leadership to change the game. See you next time.